Okay. Whoa. Genesis 10. Um, Table of Nations. Uh, so it's just a long genealogy. Um, since I just started recording, um, uh, I have linked in the chat this chart. You can do a Google search and pick your favorite map. There's a bunch of them. Just type in Table of Nations, like so. And there will be a bunch of different maps that people made. And the first thing you'll notice is that uh, a lot of them are similar, but not exactly the same. And that is because where a lot of the locations of these people groups are at is very disputed. So, there you go. These are the generations of the sons of Noah: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Yavin, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The sons of Gomer: Ashkenaz, Riptha, and Torgumah. The sons of Yavin: Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and oh man, my screen is a little. There's a smudge. Donim. From these, the coastland peoples spread in their lands, each with its own language, by their clans and in their nations. The sons of Ham: Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush: Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteca. The sons of Rama: Sheba and Dedan. Cush fathered Nimrod. He was the first on the earth to be a mighty man. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. From that land he went into Assyria and built Nineveh, Rehoboth Ir, Calah, and Risen between Nineveh and Calah. That is the great city. Egypt fathered Lidon, Anamim, Lehabim, Naphtulhum, Pathrusum, Casluthim, from whom the Philistines came, and Capharturim. I don't know. Canaan fathered Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Arkites, the Sinites, the Arvadites, and the Zemarites, and the Hamathites. Afterward, the clans of the Canaanites dispersed, and the territory of the Canaanites extended from Sidon in the direction of Gerar as far as Gaza, and in the direction of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, by their clans, their language, their lands, and their nations. To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the elder brother of Japheth, children were born. The sons of Shem: Elam, Asher, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. The sons of Aram: Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arpachshad fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. To Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Joktan fathered Almodad, Shelph, I don't know how to say that, Hazar Moveth, Gerar, Hadoram, Uzal, Diklah, Oblah, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. These all were the sons of Joktan. The territory in which they lived extended from Mesha in the direction of Sephar to the hill country of the east. These are the sons of Shem by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations. These were the clans of the sons of Noah, according to their genealogies, in their nations, and from these nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood. Okay. So, what all are we talking about? So, the overall thing that I want to talk about is why is this section in the Bible? We've had this already a couple times, right? We've had these genealogies. This genealogy is a little bit different, and we'll go into some of that. And I'm going to reserve most of the discussion about why it's in the Bible for the end. So we'll go through and talk about this in a little bit more detail. But that's the thing that I want to kind of keep in mind as we're going through it. Okay, so the first thing that you should know is that I don't exactly know how the count works, but apparently I think you have to eliminate I'm not sure if you have to eliminate Nimrod himself or just this section. Okay, so this is called the Table of Nations, and the reason why it's called the Table of Nations is because in this passage, 70 nations, or Goy, right? So if you want to know what Goyim means, right? So you can understand your anti-Semitic memes on X. The word just means nation, but also gets used for peoples, right? And so it just means like group. So in this passage, 70 different nations are mentioned, but they are mentioned as if they were individual people. And something that I've kind of already mentioned, but is going to become even more prevalent in the chapters to come, is how ancient people used familial concepts like sons and fathers, and also how that relates to places. And what you'll see is that an individual name can be a lot of different things. It can be the name of an individual. It can be the name of a clan. It can be the name of a specific place. It can also be the name of a region. It can also be the name of multiple clans. So, like the Canaanites, there's a lot of argument about whether or not the Canaanites are a specific group of people or a bunch of different people. And you can kind of see that even a little bit where it says, afterwards, the clans of the Canaanites dispersed. And so there's a little bit of ambiguity in, like what all constitutes Canaanites. And obviously this should make a little bit of sense because we even have this with like Israel, right? because Israel is comprised of 12 clans, right? And they and so it's perfectly reasonable to understand that these larger groups are going to get um, separated out and delineated. Um, and so there's three main groups, right? So we have the descendants of Shem, the descendants of Ham, and the descendants of Japheth. Um, Actually, before we get into talking about them specifically, I need to harp on the. I intended to harp on the 70 number a little bit more. Um, so there's a lot of talk about why 70 is mentioned here. You'll see a lot of stuff about how 70 is symbolic of totality, um, without really much explanation as to why. Um, I would argue that the reason why is kind of obvious because 70 is a combination of 7, which we've already talked about why 7 is like God's number, and then 10. And 10 is representative of human and like humanness. And why? Because we have 10 fingers, right? Like, obviously. Um, and so, uh, like, those two together, right, is kind of um, the totality of like the combination of mankind and God. Um, and there's a lot of, and I think I've already mentioned this before in previous chapters, right? This gets used um, to reference or to be used in comparison with the 70 elders um, of Israel, which I believe that they are on Sinai with Moses, um, and right because we had there is that like debate about in Deuteronomy about what's the correct understanding of um, like according to the sons of Israel or according to the sons of God, the B'nai Elohim, right? Um, and so the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because if you look at Michael Heiser's work, what he'll try to say is that this portion of time, if you can put it chronologically, which it's really difficult to put this chronologically, um, actually, which is something that I wanted to mention because next chapter is the Tower of Babel, right? And so this is placed before it, right? And so you have a little bit of ambiguity in how, I've said multiple times with these stories in the early chapters of Genesis, is are these happening consecutively, or is or is or is this like is this list like a concurrent list with like the story that's like about to happen, right? Because it seems like you shouldn't get the separation of all of these people groups until you have um, the Tower of Babel, right? Um, and also after the Tower of Babel incident, you're going to get another genealogy list, but that one is like more specific, right? And it's different for it's serving a different function really than what this list here is doing. Um, and so, wow, I just like brain farted as to what the point that I was trying to make. Oh no. Um, 70 uh regardless, I guess I'll try to move on because I just completely my brain just wiped. Um as to what I was talking about. Um, this is the part where if I was actually editing it, this would all get cut out. So, anyways, um, oh, and part of that 70 is you. Oh, I think I just remembered because talking about Michael Heiser. And so Heiser thinks that this point in time is like the point in time where he apportions out the nations to the various sons of God. Um, and so it is um, prior to the Babel event, um, which again to me seems strange on Heiser's. Like I think Heiser's view on that is strange and weird, um, because uh, whether this comes before or after the Babel story, which, as we'll see when we talk about it next week, the Babel story is another one of these subsequent series of falls. Um, whether this happens before or after that, God does this apportionment in time around this event. Um, if that is when God is doing it, it is post flood, right? Because like you have to agree that this takes place post flood, wherever it is that you put it, because it's the sons after the flood. Um, and so it has to be that. And so it seems very strange to me that um, if God was mad at the sons of God so much that he flooded the whole earth, it seems weird that he would then use that opportunity to give them jurisdiction over different people groups. Like that seems like a weird timing to make that decision, which is why it's one of the points where I diverge from Heiser's views. That being said, and because it goes along with it, I want to point out that whenever it says Cush fathered Nimrod, he was the first on earth to be a mighty man. And this is the word Gibor, right? And that is, I believe it is even the same. Yes, these were the mighty men. These were the Gabor, right? Who were of old were the men of renown. And so this is what I'm so and I'm not the first person to, make this connection that Nimrod, right? So Nimrod kind of is a Nephilim, right? Um, and so if Nimrod is fathered by Cush, who is fathered by Ham, right? You have this problem of that the Nephilim are somehow in the line of the regular humans. And this is why, actually, so I don't have it. If you like pick up Jonathan Pageau's graphic novel, he has that the Nephilim that is in charge of. He has a Nephilim in charge of Babel, which is Nimrod, and he's a giant, and he has Nimrod being a giant. And it makes sense because the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, right? Which is who we're going to end up talking about for, the Tower of Babel. But kind of one of the things that's interesting about this is a lot of scholars think that this portion on Nimrod is they think it is an addition, because it's none of the other like there's no other little excursions to talk about any of these individuals. Um, uh, Nimrod's the only one that it talks about. And so that's why there's some debate about if that was added. And I think that the 70 number, I can't remember. I think it includes Nimrod, or maybe it doesn't include Nimrod. I can't remember. I could have just gone through and counted. But just know that there is some debate about that. Hello, Christian. What other things did I have here? Oh, yes. I should have already gotten these references ready, and I did not. Exodus 1:5. The total number of Jacob's direct descendants who came to Egypt was 70. Boom. There you go. So there's that. First Enoch 89, 59. So you can find the Book of Enoch online for free. I think I think I was checking it out earlier. I think this link is wrong. Yes, because it doesn't even like go up enough. There was another website that had it. Was it this? Yes. Well, this wasn't the website that I was using, but this has it, so that's good enough. So I can go to 59. And he called 70 shepherds and cast those sheep to them that they might pasture them. And he spake to the shepherds and their companions, let each individual of you pasture a sheep henceforward, and everything that I shall command you that you do. Okay, so this is a section of the book of Enoch. It's called the Animal Apocalypse. And this is, you can look this up in your own time and read it. But it basically talks about the 70 elders that are put in charge of Israel. Israel is sheep in this passage. And so this is why he said, and he spake to the shepherds and their companions, let each individual of you pasture the sheep henceforward. Right? So they're each given a section of the people of Israel. Right? And so, and I don't think I explained what that connection is supposed to be significant of. The thing that's supposed to be significant of, in Heiser's view and a bunch of other people's view, is that one of the things that's going on is that the 70 elders of Israel are supposed to eventually replace the 70 sons of God that are in charge of the Table of Nations, right? And this is supposed to this idea is supposed to kind of get picked up on with Revelation, with the right, like the 12 elders, right? And because there's sort of a similar thing going on there in Revelation to this idea with the 70, and you can get caught up on the numbers, but the basic idea is that there's supposed to be some understanding of the natural human agents of God that are that are serving God are going to replace the supernatural agents that were once a part of the divine council, right? And so this is why this is all included in that like divine council view. Okay, so now that we have those ideas, any questions about any of that stuff that I just said, we're about to go into talking about Japheth, Ham, and Shem more specifically. 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. Oh, go
well,
for it.
hopefully, want to add just the point on um talking about Nimrod. Uh, it does also make us think about the section in which it talks about the Nephilim. It mentions it. It's the union of like human women with like spiritual beings or
Yes.
angels. And then the first instance we have is the first uh Nephilim or mighty man is noted to be fathered by someone, which is already pointing to the like mother is not listed there
Yeah.
at all.
Well, and also, and I failed to make this point, which, but it's a point that I've made before. Um, right, and part of my evidence, right, that not all of the Nephilim are quote unquote bad, right, which is actually one of the things that I kind of take issue with a little bit in Jonathan Peugeot's graphic novel, is because of where it says, and he was a mighty hunter before the Lord, right? Um, Therefore, it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. This before the Lord, this is that uh, like he is in front of the face of of Yahweh, right? And what that means is that like Yahweh is looking upon him. It is actually uh, it's associated with success, right? And success um, that uh, potentially like is coming from God, right? And so you have this tension here in that Nimrod is um, Nimrod is like this Nephilim figure, but he's also blessed, but he's also the founder of Babel, which is going to become a problem, right? You have all of these different tensions here in Nimrod, and it is to me, it's one of the things that Genesis does really well. Actually, is that it does these like little mini versions of stories that are going to be yet to come. Because like to me, this tension that's kind of that you can see right here in this little excerpt on Nimrod is actually really indicative of how the Bible kind of treats its relationship with Nephilim in the way that I understand the term Nephilim throughout the Bible, right? You can see this in how it deals with figures, you know, um, like Cyrus the Great and like Nebuchadnezzar and um, uh, like Rome, like with Pilate, right? Uh, like there's this tension about um, like you're successful, like you are a powerful, you're a mighty man, like you're a powerful figure, because you have been blessed by God, but also like the things that you create are susceptible to corruption. And so like um there's this tension there and what is going on, right? And um kind of leads to this question that's always in the background, right? Because you have this like it needs to be understood that that tension and that desire for power is what is going to like lead like it's a human beings see it as a necessity because of the fall, right? Like these things start happening, governments, organizations, hierarchies start happening because of the fall, right? And so they're an attempt to reestablish an order in Eden, right? And it's not going to be done perfectly, but it's sometimes admirable. And so, like, if it's done well, God will use it as a thing to point to his ultimate hierarchy that he's going to end up forming and using, right? Um, and so it will always end up being a thing that God will use, whether it's in a good way or it's in a destructive way, to point back to his plan. And that's actually how you should understand the next two chapters. Spoiler alert, right? But not much of a spoiler because that's what happens with all of these stories, right? Okay. So, now we're going to spend probably too much time talking about the birth order of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So, why are we doing this? Because it is not as clear cut as what a lot of people will say. Is it important? Potentially not. But I'm going to talk about it because I think that it might be important. Mainly because when we get into talking about why I think that this story is in the Bible, the birth order kind of matters. And also, this discussion matters because I think if we can understand what's going on with the birth order, we can understand a little bit about why I think some of the other views that people have about why this text and the section is structured the way that it is wrong. And so, yeah. So, okay. So, at first brush, you would think that the birth order is Shem, Ham, and then Japheth. Basically, nobody thinks that that is the birth order. And so, uh, and the two main reasons why. So, and there's a third reason that's not really a reason why people don't think that that is the birth order. But the two main reasons why people don't think that, that is birth order is because of this verse right here, where it says, "To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the elder brother of Japheth." Right here, where it says the elder brother of Japheth, there's a lot of debate about how this should be interpreted. Because that of, as you can see, is not highlighted, right? Because really all it says there is Gadol, like old, Ach, brother, and then Yafet, which is Japheth. And so you can interpret that as being elder brother of Japheth, as in Shem is older than Japheth, or you can interpret it as the older brother Japheth. So, as in Japheth is older than Shem. And so that's the way that a lot of scholars take it. The other verse that's important is back in Genesis 9, which we kind of skipped over last week, but it says, "When Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him." And so he's talking about Ham there, right? Now, again, this youngest son is Quatan, and it basically just means small. Ben. So his small son had done. Well, we know that it's that the context can't be talking about like small as in he's physically small because he's old enough to have a wife, right? And so pretty much everybody is like, oh, well, this small is talking about order. The problem is that you don't know if he means youngest or younger or just, again, because I talked about how that story I think is about immaturity. It could just mean like the one being immature, right? Um, and so it's not clear as to whether or not uh, Ham is supposed to be um, the second or the third kid. Um, I'm not committed to this, but um, I actually so the order that I think um, that they're born in is actually not an order that I see listed in a lot of places. Um, and I'll state why. so, uh, but the options generally are is that um, Japheth is either first or last. So pretty much nobody thinks Japheth is in the middle, right? So he's either first or last. Ham is either in the middle or he is last. Um, and then Shem can kind of go anywhere. Um, uh, and those are sort of your options. Um, I tend to agree with the idea that the order is Japheth, Ham, and then Shem. Part of the reason why I think that is correct is because I'm doing a little bit of thematical reverse engineering. Um, if you read the rest of Genesis and the rest of the Bible as a whole, what you'll see is there is a pattern of so is it yeah
Primogeniture.
primogeniture. There you go. Right, state of being the firstborn child. So um, there. So the ancient world, right, has a lot of primogeniture stuff going on, right, and a constant theme in Genesis and in the Bible as a whole is that there is this seemingly reversal of primogeniture practices that are going on, even though in the Levitical law itself, it follows a practice of primogeniture. Um, so just off the top of my head, right, you have Ishmael is first, and then you have Isaac. Isaac is the second born, but Isaac is the son of the promise. You have Esau, but then you have Jacob, and Esau is the firstborn, but Jacob is the son of the promise. Then you have the 12 sons of Jacob, but the one that is actually the most prominent that the story ends up being about is about Joseph, right? And you kind of have this going on. So then you see this again with like David. David is like the youngest of his brothers. You see this on and on and on and on and on. And then interestingly, when you get to the New Testament, um, Jesus is not a second born. Jesus is a firstborn, right? And then it all you end up then having this line about he is the firstborn of all creation. So like, how do you have this tension? Well, I'll just go ahead and resolve it for you. Um, uh, there's a theme about the second son having primacy, and I think as soon as I say that in relationship to Jesus, you should already kind of make the connection, right? Like, how is Jesus the second son? He's the second Adam, right? But he's like the second Adam that has primacy, right? And so that's how Jesus like falls into this um, pattern that takes place in the Old Testament. Um, and so because of that, I think that it makes um, the most sense that actually Shem is uh, the youngest. I think that it makes sense for Shem to be um, at least younger than Ham. But in order to be younger than Ham, because Ham can't be firstborn because of all the other reasons that we've mentioned, that means that Japheth needs to be firstborn. And also, that theme would go along with um, this curse that we have back here, right? Um, we're going to end up seeing a lot of curses slash blessings, and the potential similarities between those two things, um, where we kind of have that reversal, right? Um, uh, and so, one thing that I haven't said yet that I wanted to highlight is that what a lot of people will end up saying is that the reason why it's listed in this order of Shem, Ham, and Japheth is that uh, that's the order of prominence, but not the order of birth. And to me, that doesn't make any sense, because if you're actually looking at um, like this blessing slash curses here, Japheth is above um, like is above Ham, right? Well, I mean, I guess technically he's above Canaan, right? But it's the insult is happening to Ham, right? Um, and so I don't think it makes sense to think of this ordering as an ordering due to prominence. I think what makes more sense of this ordering actually has to do with um, something more like geological familiarity, right? And so it's not a perfect um, idea. And part of the reason why I'm showing, well, you guys can't see it because I stopped sharing my screen. Um, but if you reference the map that I linked, um, it doesn't work perfectly, but um, in my opinion, the way that you should kind of think about Shem, Ham, and Japheth from the point of view of an Israelite who's the original audience for this story, they would think of descendants of Ham as those closest to themselves and their ancestry, right? And then going out from them would be the Hamites, who are kind of around them in a larger circle. And then the furthest out from them is going to be the descendants of Japheth. And so these actually operate a bit like concentric rings of familiarity, um, which makes sense. And so if you go and even like, if you go look into, so I'm I'm skipping ahead a little bit. yeah, I'll just go ahead and say it. So this passage is kind of the basis for what Jonathan Pageau calls universal history, um, and it's this idea of talking about how like everyone is connected into the biblical story, and um, and apparently in the Middle Ages it became a thing in England to say that the English come from a fourth son of Noah. Who was either like born on the ark or was like in his in Noah's wife's belly in the ark and was like born after or something like that. And then this guy washed up on England, and that is how they are connected to um, this line of people. And it makes sense because they're like the furthest out, and so that would be like the furthest out in these concentric circles. Um, okay, I have 8 minutes to talk about the thing that I said was the most important. Okay, so I'm gonna read it. So, why is this in the Bible? Is it to show that the Shemites are above the Canaanites? So, from an academic perspective, um, most people are going to argue that this passage and the passage before it are there to show that the Shemites are above um, the Canaanites and really above all of the descendants of Ham, and that shows that they're better than them. And this is supposed to give justification for the genocide that's going to take place against the Canaanites, right? Um, if you're got the Michael Heiser view, right, it's to establish the countries that the sons of God are going to rule over. I would argue that the purpose of this passage um, is actually to make the case that all humans come from the same fundamental family. And this is actually a kind of uniquely Israelite Hebrew thought process. Most ancients wouldn't have really had this idea. So, like, uh, most people were pretty tribalistic, and basically, like, their people were people, and people that were from the outside didn't really matter, right? So even like our term democracy, right, from the Greeks, right, that demos in Athens means earth, and so what it meant was that it was rule by the people of the earth, right? So you got like oligarchy, right? A democracy is a democracy is it's the rule of the people of the earth. Who are the people of the earth? It's the Athenians, right? They're the people of the earth. Everybody else is not, right? So you don't just let anybody in. The Athenians did not believe in open borders, right? You, you, um, like they were people, other people weren't, and then like the other end of this is like in um like ancient like Babylonian thought and everything. The idea was that regular people were made to be slaves of the gods. That was their purpose, right? That's why the gods made people. Um, like so, like if you read Gilgamesh, like it talks about this, and then actually, um, and like in the Gilgamesh flood account, the whole thing is that the gods make people to serve them, and then the gods get annoyed because the people are really loud and noisy, and so they send the flood to kill everybody, right? So it's actually like not at all along the same lines of justification to the biblical story, right? And like that kind of, and so, but the exception to that is the rulers, right? The rulers, the people in charge, right? They are actually of divine origin. So this is something that else that Heiser talks about with like the Anuki or whatever, right? These are like these um, people that are operating kind of again as like Nephilim because they're like half human, half god like people. And so they are the ones that rule the empire. They're the ones that are in charge. And because they are divine, therefore it's all of the servants' jobs to take care of them, right? And what the Bible is doing here, I think, with all of this, is giving a polemic against those ideas and is actually saying that no, all human beings are fundamentally, ontologically in the same family, even the ones that you consider to be Nephilim, right? And so this is part of the reason why I don't agree with this idea that the Nephilim are like a genetically different being or species to humans, right? Like the whole point of this passage being in here is actually no, all, we're all descendant from the same um, uh, from the same family, right? Um, and actually, I was thinking about it a little bit more this past week because I was thinking more about this idea of that the Noahide covenant is made for all of the earth. That even if, um, even if the giants, even if the Nephilim giants are uh, not ontologically human and have like some genetic defection or something like that, they would still be a creature on the earth. And so, actually, shouldn't the Noahide laws still apply to them if that is, in fact, what's going on there? Um, so, I just thought that was an interesting thing that I was like, I don't know if anybody's ever put those ideas. I've never heard anybody put those ideas together. Um, uh, so, and then some are not born as slaves, and some as descendants of the gods that are actually um, not. Yeah, okay, I already said all that. All right, and then in order to have this view, though, the bitter pill that I have to swallow is that some Second Temple Jews were wrong about the nature of what the Nephilim are. And I'm okay with that because I think that Second Temple Jews are wrong about a lot of things. Um, and then I already mentioned the universal history idea. Okay. Um, so actually, I think I said all of the points that I wanted to say. Um, any questions, comments, or anything about uh, the passage or what I've said? Because we're at the end.
Um, I have two thoughts, questions.
Okay.
Um, the first one is about the Nephilim, and this is total speculation, just because I think speculating about the Nephilim is just pure entertainment. So that's why
Yep.
you do it. Anyways, everybody's obsessed with the Nephilim. I mean, I personally am not, but there's like a bazillion and one conspiracy theorists out there who are like, it's the return of the Nephilim.
It's
They're
why
back.
it's why we're in Iran
They're-
right now. We
Yeah,
gotta capture them.
they're back upon the earth. They've
Yep.
returned.
Yep. We gotta go catch
Anyways,
them.
what's that?
We gotta go catch them, right? I think isn't that
Or that the government is actually communicating with the floating spirits of the Nephilim because
okay.
they were not quite human.
Yep.
Not quite human. And And so therefore, God doesn't know what to do with them, and they just kind of float in limbo land.
Yep.
Um, anyways, but actually, it is a question along those lines. Is theoretically, if their father was an angel and their mother a human, would that automatically mean they're not human? Because, and this is, I really don't know that it matters. It's just something I thought about this week. And with you talking about the Nephilim, I was like, I might as well ask it.
Yeah.
So of course, we only have one example of another human being who didn't have a father
Yep.
and was born only of a woman, right?
Yep.
There's one verifiable person,
Yep.
and that's of course Jesus.
Yep.
We don't look at Jesus and go, well, you're not really part of the human race.
Yep.
We go, you're 100% divine and 100% man.
Yep.
So could you, in the same sense, say, hey, Nephilim, you're 100% angelic, even though they were corrupted angels, but you're 100% angelic and you're also 100% man. Could you not make kind of the same argument?
So this is the problem with trying to apply modern categories upon ancient texts. Because even if we start with like the Jesus example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we don't know, and there are no theological commitments that, as far as I know, that I don't think any denomination of Christianity tells people that you should make a theological commitment about what the genetic makeup of Jesus' DNA is, right? And so like it's theoretically possible that Jesus' DNA is nearly 100% identical to Mary's, but just that his gender got swapped. And so he's a near genetic clone of Mary, or it's that the 50% of his DNA that should have come from his father, that God made it Joseph's DNA, or that God made it some other DNA that's like unique to Jesus. We don't know. We have no idea what that should be. And also, that's just something that nobody in the ancient world cared about because they didn't know about DNA, right? Like, like if Jesus had come back now, yeah, maybe people would have cared about that, and someone would have kept something that he owned so that they could do DNA testing on it. But nobody back then had that capability or thought process, and so no one did that, right? And so we don't know how God did that, and so in the same way that we don't know how God did that there, we don't know how an angel fathering a child would work either. Like it's all speculation territory, and it's one of the things that like it just.
Well, I don't know if they fathered them. I think they probably abandoned them after birth. It's something
Well,
similar to our Detroit ghetto.
Sure.
A lot of broken homes.
I, I guess I'm just using the term fathered as in like.
I know I'm messing
Yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
yeah. But right, and so like, yeah, we don't know what the capabilities of. We don't know what capabilities of minor creation other supernatural beings have, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's just a to to me, it's just a road that is unhelpful to go down because it's a thing that we don't know and we can't answer and we'll probably never know. Um, and so it's one of the things that I always find strange whenever I see people adamantly arguing, like, I don't know, like this is where diseases come from and stuff like that. That it's corrupted, it's corrupted DNA, and I'm like, I I don't know where you're, I don't know where you're so like emphatically getting that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I had one other question,
sure.
and then I actually probably have to go, but, um, you were talking about, you're touching on maybe like tribal supremacy or
Mm-hmm.
superiority and, um, this conversation actually, I was talking to my daughters about Jacob and Esau. Actually, one of them said something about Jacob and Esau, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a scripture that um God loved Jacob and hated Esau, which
Yep.
they're like, so do you think that's true? And I was like, well, it's a figure of speech. And I'm trying to think of what I was saying. Oh, here's a thought that I've been trying to process through, and you might have some insight into this, is that in some ways, like when God continued to um he would select a specific seed, and
Yep.
we can't even fully understand why. It's just he did. He selected a certain seed. He said, I've chosen Abraham, and now, not Ishmael, Isaac, not Esau, Jacob, and on down the line, and then, oh, and not Saul, David.
Mm-hmm.
And he just keeps doing this over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it really feels like they are not only representative of Christ,
Oh
that
yeah.
Christ selects the perfect seed. I think it goes beyond just like representative. I think that they actually, in some ways, it's almost like the Christ is the ultimate. He's the ultimate seed, and clearly no one can take his position. But there's something holy and something beyond just pure, just representative stuff going on, to where it's
Yeah.
almost like it is almost like Christ in them, like the picture of Christ is there.
Yeah, it's the
And
pattern
yeah,
that I was talking about earlier.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because it's the pattern that I was talking about earlier, and I mean I can give you my theory for why I
yeah, yeah.
think
I
that
want to hear
pattern
your thoughts
occurs.
on
Um,
I want to hear your thoughts on
yeah,
that.
so it's kind of easy actually.
Okay.
Um, the reason why that pattern occurs is because it is a um it is how God proves that it's him that's doing it, right? Because
That's what I'm saying. That
because
okay,
you you
that's
you
that's
you
that's what
you
I'm
have
saying. It's kind of like you're
because
doing it. Yeah.
it's contrasted with what we've just been talking about here, right? It's God's system and God's way being contracted, being not contracted, contrasted with the system of men, right? Right, and so God says, like, in your weakness, like I make perfection in your weakness, right? And like the reason why He does that is so that you won't boast, right? And it's not because He doesn't want you to boast. Like He doesn't care about you boasting. He is trying to utilize you as a way to help other people make connections back to Him, right? This is the way that God um this is the way that God makes Himself show up to people in the world, right? Um, it is His anti-hiddenness agenda, right? Because everybody talks about the hiddenness of God. Like this is the way that God makes Himself become evident to people, right? And the way that he does that is he does this reversal thing, right? He makes the first become last and the last become first. He does that continuously. And it is, and so like if you go back and like read all the stuff that I'm like saying about Jesus in like the story leading up to the passion thing, one of the things that I say is it's God playing on hard mode, right? Like the way that you know that someone is really good at a video game is if they play it on hard mode, right? And the way that you know that they are the best at the game is if they put on artificial constraints, right? And so if someone plays Guitar Hero with like a violin, right, and they do the fire and the flames thing or whatever, like with the violin, they're the best person at Guitar Hero, right? Because they're playing on hard mode, right? And so if you intentionally make things difficult for yourself and you still win, you're the best. That's just what it means. And so if you are constantly using the weak things of the world, the small things of the world, the things that nobody else cares about, and you're making them preeminent above everybody else, then you're the best. That's just what that means. And so that's what God does repeatedly throughout the stories all of the time. It's God's way of showing people, hey, this is me doing something and not you. That's like kind of fundamentally what I think it is and why that pattern exists. Because it's how God shows up in the world, and you can even see that, right? And like in these stories that we're going to be doing, right, in all of those sons that I mentioned, almost always there's some example or some connection between the firstborn is in some ways man trying to control the situation, right? So with Abraham, it's he doesn't have a son. He doesn't know, he has this promise. He doesn't know how it's going to be fulfilled. And so he takes control and he goes and he sleeps with Hagar, right? And he makes a son, right? With Jacob and Esau, it's not anything that Isaac did. It's the way that Esau operates. Esau is the one that is like the manly man. He is actually like Nimrod, right? He's a hunter, right? That's what Esau is. And as you'll end up seeing, he goes out and he gets men and he establishes like a kingdom, right? And that's what Esau does. And Jacob, for like to his credit, at the beginning he's kind of like that because he's cunning. He's a slimy guy, but he's also like repentant, right? And so that's how you end up having this, but like that repentance comes through God and everything, right? So you're able to have that reversal. You're able to see that contrast and how God works in someone's life versus how I guess you could say patriarchy if you want to get woke about it, right? But like the system of mankind that they have in place, that God is kind of
but it's not so like
with.
but like here's the thing is like obviously like intrinsically Jacob and Esau have equal value in the eyes of God. So
Yes.
when he says Jacob I loved, Esau I hated, it seems like it's somewhat of a covenantal pronouncement, and
Okay.
just
Yeah.
like trying
So
to juxtapose like one individual. I am making my covenant with this person. This person does not carry my covenant. Does that make sense? I mean that's one way of looking at it, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on
so
that.
yeah. So about that verse in specifically, I think that verse has nothing to do with the individuals. That
It has
verse
nothing to do with
it
what?
has nothing to do with the individuals. It has nothing to do with Jacob and Esau. That verse is not about individuals in any shape, form, or fashion. That verse is said in like Deuteronomy. It is not about Jacob and Esau as people. I am a full believer that God loved Esau, and I actually think that Esau is in heaven. I have this joke.
No, I agree. Actually, I 100% agree
Yeah,
with you.
I
My
have this
point is,
joke that at like when every Calvinist gets to heaven, the person that greets them at the door is Esau. Um, like um, if you go and you read the story of Jacob and Esau, Esau is not a bad guy. Esau is a very like reasonable, trying to do the right thing guy, but like
yeah.
often does the wrong thing. In fact, Jacob is almost entirely a worse person than Esau. um, so that verse is not at all about which one of them is morally better or who
Oh no,
God
that's not what I'm
favored.
saying. I'm
No, no,
trying.
no. But I'm saying that that is what people think that the
I think
verse
it's a
is.
prophetic I think I think there's some sort of like prophetic covenantal juxtaposing going on where it's like, you know,
Sure. I mean,
setting it setting at odds, kind of not them as individuals, but more just like the picture of in Christ, like Jacob represents in Christ reality, and Esau represents the out of Christ reality. That's one way of looking at it, but
uh, I don't think that's how I would define
okay.
it. Um, if you remember, one of the things that I said, kind of about the whole Noah story in general, is that I said, uh, the story of Noah is a fundament is kind of fundamentally about time. Um, and you're gonna see this introduction of time. And one of the things as you go on that you will see time as a um uh, it's an idea that I've been working on for a while, and I don't have it fully fleshed out, but it's that God uses time as a weapon. Um and Jacob and Esau together are so fundamentally it's not that one is in Christ and one is outside of Christ. It's that one is God's path and one is man's path, right?
Okay, yeah.
And
See that.
and the way that you should see those together is something like a spear, right? And so a spear has a tip and it has a base. Um, Jacob is the tip of the spear, and Esau is the base of the spear.
Mm.
And so, and this spear is being wielded through time by God. And so the path is cut by Jacob. But the path is cut by Jacob for Esau. Right? God chooses the sons of the promise to bless the whole nations. That's the reason they are blessed is for all of the nations. They're not blessed in spite of the nations. They're blessed for the nations, right? And so
Mhm.
like I don't think it's right to categorize them as being outside of Christ, because the stuff that
That makes
Christ is
sense.
doing is for them, right? Like it's for, like, Christ is the ultimate fulfillment of the idea of the blessing to the nations. Like he's for everybody else, but he comes through the Jews, right? And so he comes to the Jew first and then the Gentile, right? And so that's why it's like, that's why like this spear idea, right? Like he goes first and then everybody else is dragged behind him, right? Like that's what's happening, right? So like, and like this is why Christ is the firstborn of all creation. It's not because he one, he's not created, and he's not created first. It's preeminence. He's the one that goes first. He goes into death first so that we can go out of first. He is going to the cross first so that we can carry our cross up the hill, and he can bring all of us on. Like that's what it is. It's not I'm blessing these people and I'm not blessing these
Yeah,
other
it's like
people.
it's the Abrahamic blessing that
Yes.
that the Lord blessed Abraham so he could bless all the nations. So he'd be a
Yes.
blessing. Him and his seed, and ultimately Christ would be a blessing to all the nations.
Yes. And
But couldn't you see? Couldn't you see like? And actually, I think you make some really interesting points. But couldn't you also see a picture of like Esau being a type of like the first Adam, and Jacob being a picture of the second Adam? Did you see that?
well, yeah,
Is
because
that
I mean, well, I
be
mean,
like multi-layered?
I did it. I mean, what I said earlier was I did it in the other order of what you said, where I'm
Yeah.
like it's like Adam, like Adam and Jesus are a picture of Esau and Jacob, right? Because
Yeah,
like
that makes sense.
because like
Oh, cool.
because like Adam is the older brother and Jesus is the younger brother, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I was like the primogeniture reversal that is taking place with Jesus is Jesus as the second brother is overtaking Adam as the first brother, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
and so yes, yeah, that's sort of the way that I would make that connection. Yeah.
I actually love your spare example because I'm always trying to like, you know, people like to flatten scripture out, and I hate that. They're like, and they can't figure something out. They just go, well, let me just figure out the easiest binary that my brain can handle.
Right.
And I don't, you probably see that too, where it's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
they take complexity and they just flatten it. They flatten the complexity out just so they can, you know, so I guess they can understand the gospel in a few bullet points.
Yeah.
And and I hate that. So I love your spirit description because I oftentimes think about like, well, how are we to understand, you know, if like theoretically, if there's a role for say like the Jews still,
Yeah.
like what would that be? If it's like if
And
there's some sort of distinct role, what would that be?
this
And
is
so I think you can make the argument that there's still kind of like a tip of the spirit
they
role. Yeah.
are. They're exactly like
Yeah.
this is the thing that like they're still that. Like
Yeah, exactly.
like they they still are that, right? Like
Mhm.
and they they s- they still like, and this is the thing too, it's like
And people are like so
even if
upset
they're
about
doing
that.
it wrong, even if
They
they're doing
totally
it
are. They're doing it terrible.
even if they're doing it wrong, and even if they're doing it terribly, right? Like they are still pointing people to the God of Israel, and like they're and like like we don't like as Christians. I'm just like, this is not a thing that we need to be like frustrated over. Like we think
Yeah.
Jesus is the God of Israel. So if they're pointing people towards the God of Israel, like let them do that and let them like like I mean, for crying out loud, this is Jesus says this like over and over again. Like, don't try to tear out, um, don't try to remove the tears, right?
Mm,
Like I'll do that, right? And
yep.
and he'll be the one to thresh that out. Just keep pointing in the same direction, right? And understand and like you do that, and and obviously do what you can to teach truth and everything to the people that are around you and that you care about and your community, like to the best of your ability. But like going out of your way to be like, no, like everything about the Jews is wrong. It's like, no, like like to me there's enough stuff in Judaism that points to um like like Jews are just like, it's so funny to me how fundamentally they need Christians. Like,
Fundamentally, they what?
they need Christians, and
Oh
like
yeah.
they don't even realize it. I don't know if I mentioned it on here, but like I was watching, I think I did, but whatever. I was like watching a podcast or whatever where the guy was like the Messiah is supposed to bring the whole world to Christ, but also
Yep.
Jews don't proselytize. And it's like, okay, well then how
Right. Right.
or like the not the whole, not the Messiah is supposed to bring everybody to Christ. The Messiah is supposed to make everybody believe in God. The Messiah is supposed to make everybody believe in God, but also Jews don't proselytize. How are you guys going to do that? Like, oh, it's Christians. Christians are the ones that are making that happen. You're welcome. Like, and um and like even right now, like with stuff like that's going on like with Iran or whatever, and it's like and the fact that they like have the fact that they've re-emerged as a country, which no ancient group has ever done ever, and all that stuff. It's like, well, actually, you guys
It's
kind
like
of
the
did
same
that. Like,
patterns played over and over and over in history.
yeah,
It's like kind of like the same story, just in different with different hues and different tones
yeah,
and slightly differently, but the same. It's the same general patterns. Sometimes I like your what did you say you like in fractals?
yeah.
Like not necessarily
Not to the
in
same
a
scale, but but you get
yeah.
smaller and larger versions of similar stories. Yeah.
Eventually
Which
though the story ends in
that's a thing that I stole from Jonathan Peugeot for all four people that watched the recording on this. Which
now eventually though it does end in cosmic form. Would you agree? I mean that's what we kind of
yeah.
see.
It goes
You see
well.
that kind of played out in
The
Revelation,
the
cosmic
whole
form of everything
the
forming.
whole thing about a fractal is that a fractal is the same as you zoom in and as you zoom out.
Right, that's
So
true. Yeah.
like it, the cosmic level is like the farthest that we can conceive of zooming out, and so of course it has to apply there as well, and it's going to apply in small micro things
Because
as well.
no, it's fascinating, man. I mean, like in Revelation 12, it's like you have the dragon and the woman. In Genesis, you have the woman and the serpent.
Yeah,
It's like it's kind of the cosmic version
yeah.
of that thing played out. But I don't know how we got here. It's just kind of yeah.
Evan, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, so I guess what this whole chapter makes me think of, um, combined with, my recent readings through like First Samuel and stuff,
Yeah,
is that uh, we've had conversations about if there is a form of historicity that can be applied to like the Genesis story of like the fall or something like that, then it's more. My estimation would be it's more like a condensing of the pattern of the fall across like multiple instances, and
sure.
uh, which is why in my reading of the early reign of Saul, that actually is exactly how it plays out for Saul. That he has a first mistake, which is not waiting for Samuel to arrive to commit a sacrifice.
So
And
he
instead
takes it
doing it on
upon
his own timing.
he takes it on himself. Yep.
And what Samuel tells him is that because you did this, you had a reign that would have lasted forever, but now it will end.
Mm. So it's an introduction of
Which
death.
is
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the first fall that takes it from like it was a new creation, a new structure in the
Yeah.
the kingdom, the institution of the monarchy for them, and because of this first flaw, it introduced death and sin into it, making it so that it was incomplete. And it was, as I read it, I was like, okay, that kind of validates my stance that this is what could be happening. Um, like this story is being drawn from all those instances of what was the mistake that caused the destruction of all of these nations, these empires, these governments, these people groups, and it's applied in that. But I think the tone of some of this is and my only thing about the genealogies, this specific one, is that what we see here is that they're people, but they are the names of the nations. They are representations of the nations. And what's interesting there is that for the Jews, that's literal because they have Israel. And so it makes sense that is when the world is conceptualized through that lens, it's in the way that actually matches the way it was done for them, which I found I thought that was interesting. It's like, okay, that makes sense. It makes sense to do it like you can understand what's going on as it's being said, but it also makes sense with the personal history that's going on there. So also, I guess to the other extent, as a
Hey, I gotta go. I got a crying child. So.
that's fine.
All right. Later.
Later.